call to order the October 22nd meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Bonsall for our ceremonial opening.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Today I want to share that Diwali is an important festival for Indian Americans, and it falls on November 1st this year. Diwali is the festival of light, a triumph of light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, and hope over despair. Diwali is more than a celebration of tradition. It's a reminder that even in challenging times, the light within each of us can guide the way. Let us use this moment to come together as a community, honor the spirit of unity, and extend kindness and compassion to those around us. May the light of Diwali inspire us to build a brighter future for all. With that, I'll request everyone to please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Bonsall. First order of business is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second and a third. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to recognitions, reports, and presentations. And our first recognition is the presentation of Cary Band Day proclamation. And I'll invite the director, Chris Foster, to meet me at the podium.
Hello. Thank you all. Good to see you again. Good to see you again.
For those that don't know, Cary Band Day's been going on in Cary for over a half a century. It's a big deal, and it impacts a lot of people in Cary, even our council members. We have Michelle Craig, whose son's in the band, right? And the first time Jennifer Robinson ever came to Cary was with a band a couple of years ago.
A couple years ago.
And so it's a community celebration, and we want to recognize Cary Band Day with a proclamation, so I'll read that proclamation now. Recognizing November 2nd, 2024 as the 65th Cary Band Day. And whereas Cary High School Band has consistently demonstrated outstanding musical and marching excellence, earning both national and regional recognition for its impressive achievements. And whereas members of the Cary High School Band have brought great pride to Cary and its citizens, all while maintaining exceptional academic performance. And whereas music holds an increasingly vital role in our world today, serving as a universal language and one of the most powerful forces for fostering peace and harmony. And whereas 2024 marks the 103rd anniversary of the Cary Band, which started in 1921. Jack, you were a couple of years old at that time, yeah. And whereas for the past 66 years, Cary Band has proudly hosted North Carolina's premier celebration of marching band excellence and music education. Now, therefore, I, Harold Weinberg Jr., Mayor of Cary, North Carolina, on behalf of the entire Cary Town Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 2nd, 2024 as the 65th Cary Band Day, and urge all the citizens of Cary and the surrounding areas to join in honoring and supporting this long-standing Cary tradition, proclaimed this 22nd day of October, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Town Council for continuing to recognize Cary Band Day as an important milestone for the town. This is, as he said, this is the 65th version of it. As our Band Booster President, Jason Chamberlain, says, there's more Cary Band Days than Super Bowls. It's important to note that. This celebration of musicianship from the students is also a vital fundraiser for the Cary Band. We have administration here in Wake County who is very supportive of the arts verbally, but unfortunately not found a way yet to financially support the band programs in a meaningful way. The county provides a total of $1,000 for instrument repairs for the year. That's it. To fix one tuba costs around $400, and we have around 40 school-owned instruments. There's also no funds for replacing equipment or even purchasing new music. So all of it falls on the parents and the kids to support the program financially. This is really unfortunate, as I believe we're slowly pricing out students from participating in the most significant parts of their high school experience, the marching band. So I hope that with the continued support of this and other fundraisers, we can provide quality instruments and positive experiences for the students of Cary Band. Thank you again for the Town Council for your support. I hope that the community can come out to the show, donate to the Cary Band, and to help continue the success of the 103rd rendition of the Cary Band. You can find out all the information on our website, which is www.caryband.org. Thank you very much.
Next, we'll move to our manager's report, and I'll recognize Manager Sean Stigl.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to provide an update on Wake County's project involving the lake and dam at Bond Park. Wake County recently updated its project website, including a posted frequently asked questions section that we requested. We've posted a link from our Bond Park webpage to the county's project page to help our citizens find the county's information. In addition to the online information, Cary and Wake staffs are meeting at the end of the month to continue our discussions on the project, including citizen input we've received directly. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stigl.
Thank you.
We'll now move to item number 3, Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There are 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out: through written comments, or by calling in, or by attending here in person tonight. And if you are here in person and would like to speak, I would ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are lit and highlighted. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments, and you may speak on any topic as long as it's not a public hearing, and that's to your benefit. You get more time at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. We have a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When it turns yellow, that means you have 30 seconds remaining. And when it flashes red, that's the point I'm going to interrupt you. Again, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. I would like to ask that all of our speakers be respectful in their comments and direct those comments to the entire council and not to an individual. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting and respect that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or use any props, or do anything else that may distract from the business meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out. And first, I'll call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had 2 written comments and 2 registered speakers. Richard Miller shared concerns over the bond referendum, citing concerns about the financial burdens on homeowners and noting that although the tax rate in Cary is the lowest in Wake County, the median home prices are the highest. Peter Cullen criticized elected officials for seeking approval of a bond following a property tax increase. Our first in-person speaker is David Christensen.
My name is David Christensen. I'm second vice commander of Cary American Legion Post 67. The town of Cary is to be commended for the numerous fine high schools. I want to call attention to Cary High in particular. This school has a unique characteristic. That uniqueness is tied to the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, or JROTC. The JROTC program prepares high school students for leadership roles while making them aware of their rights, responsibilities, and privileges as American citizens. It provides instruction and rewarding opportunities that will benefit the student, the community, and the nation. Our Legion Post partners with and supports the JROTC program at Cary High, and this is especially true of the Junior Sports Shooting Program that sponsored by the National American Legion headquarters in Indianapolis. This is an Olympic sport that employs air rifles, which are stored and practiced by Cary High at our post. The NRA over the last 2 years has furnished the Cary High School with standard air rifles used in JROTC students by students nationwide. This equipment amounts to over $5,000. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen.
Our next registered speaker is Anne Marie Elney.
When do I summon? I press it or you?
No, whenever you try, I'll press it.
Oh,
Oh, this microphone right here. Whenever you try.
okay. Hi, good evening, Town of Cary council members. My name is Anne Marie Allen, and I've lived in Cary for about 24 years. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to raise urgent matters that remain unresolved and significantly impact my household. First, incredibly, the water service has been disconnected to my home for over 3 years. Despite multiple attempts to address the situation, I still do not have water service restored at my home. On May 18, 2021, a disconnection notice was placed at my door, but the town of Cary did not provide a clear response to my husband's follow-up letter sent by USPS, express mail, and fax, dated May 18 and May 20th, seeking clarification on the charges and requesting an itemized breakdown of the bill of the utility account. So on June 1st, 2021, I spoke with Rich, the 311 citizen advocate, and he said to me that CFO Karen Mills had received the dispute and was in the process of reviewing it. The town's policy 112 stated that the finance director or designee will first declare a disputed bill accurate before disconnection of service, but no such declaration has ever been made. This town's own records remains inaccurate, with several recurring charges that do not match service actions and payments not applied accurately. This unresolved utility issue continues to leave my family without access to a basic necessity, water. Second, the town of Cary, again incredibly, took my tax refund through a set-off without giving me notice or due process or an opportunity to dispute the action. To make matters worse, the utility account involved in this set-off is not in my name, and the debt in question is not mine. As a matter of fact, NC set-off sent me an email yesterday stating I have, that's them quote, I have researched and there's no debts that I can see for town of Cary for your last name or with your last 4 of your social security number. Yet the portion of my tax refund was seized by the town of Cary. This action is not only improper, but has placed a significant financial burden on me. Despite several requests, I have yet to receive a meeting date with my town representatives to discuss issues that require the attention and oversight of elected officials to ensure accountability.
Lastly, just before I got here, I received a message from my state representative, you all are familiar with her, Ya Lu, indicating that her office intends to look into the situation. I want to be clear. I welcome Representative Lu's assistance, but I do not waive any of my rights regarding this matter. However, I'm still seeking meaningful engagement from the town of Cary to ensure that these issues are resolved
Sorry, but your
fairly
time
and
has expired. If you have additional comments, if you could leave them with the...
well, it was done. I just said resolve fairly and promptly. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
So that was fine. Thank you.
No additional registered speakers.
If you are here in the audience and would like to speak at Public Speaks Out, now's your opportunity, and I would invite you forward.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group here on behalf of the applicant team for the South Hills rezoning. First, I want to say we're here to answer any questions that you all may have when this item comes up as a discussion item. More importantly, I want to acknowledge the significant work that's gone into this application. An application of this magnitude, a project of this complexity, doesn't come together by accident, and it doesn't come together just by the work of the applicant and the applicant team. And what Katie Dry and her team have done on the staff side has been Herculean, not just exemplary work at the staff level. I always know when I come to work on projects in the town of Cary that my clients are going to receive excellence in service. This has been incredible. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work that your staff has put in. You're still in fantastic hands with Katie and her team. And again, we're here to answer any questions you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Anyone else to speak at Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, will close Public Speaks Out and move to the consent agenda. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV or streaming, I'll take a moment to review our consent agenda items. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all consent agenda items. On the consent agenda, we have traffic schedule update on Arthur Pierce Road, fiscal year 2024 annual utility reimbursements, approval program record schedule, and minutes. Would council members like any of these items pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that apply for Public Speaks Out with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first public hearing is 23A04, Courtyards at White Oak Annexation. Principal Planner Rachel Smith. Is this your first time?
Second time.
Second time. We'll introduce the item, and council will not take action on this item tonight. It will return at a future meeting. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. This is a request for annexation of two parcels comprising approximately 50.6 acres located at 0 and 1220 Bachelor Road. The property is 4/10 of a mile north of Green Level West Road in western Cary and is just to the east of the Chatham and Wake County line. The property is contiguous to Cary's corporate limits, is not located within the ETJ, and does not include any intervening right-of-way. The public hearing for the associated rezoning, 23 REZ03, Courtyards at White Oak, was held at the last council meeting on September the 26th. The parcels are proposed to be zoned Transitional Residential Conditional Use, TRCU, to develop an age-restricted community of detached dwellings and townhouses. The rezoning request includes additional parcels that are already in the Cary corporate limits and thus are not included in the annexation. The applicant proposes a max of 170 dwelling units on the entirety of the site included in the rezoning, which would yield a density of 2.37 dwelling units per acre. Following tonight's public hearing, action on the annexation will be deferred to a future council meeting to allow for joint consideration of both the annexation and rezoning request. This concludes my presentation, and following the public hearing, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Now's time for public hearing for 23A04. And first, I'll call on the clerk for any written comments or any call-in or registered speakers.
No written comments and no registered speakers.
If If you're in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity. Anyone to speak at this public hearing for the annexation at White Oaks? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing, open up to council members for questions or comments.
No. Move forward. Oh, does this have to go to planning and
It's
zoning?
going to the
Oh,
planning, we're just going to wait
Wait,
for the
that's right.
rezoning to go
Never
through the
mind.
planning and zoning board. Thank you, Ms. Smith. So our next public hearing is 5.2 Act 34 Imagine Cary Community Plan 2024 Update. Community Projects Director Cassie Schumacher-Georgopoulos will introduce the item, and council will not take action on this comprehensive plan amendment tonight, but it will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board, and it will return to council at a future meeting. Mr. Schumacher-Georgopoulos.
Good evening, Mayor Weinbrecht and council members. I'm here tonight to introduce the 2024 update of the Imagine Cary Community Plan for the public hearing. A little bit of process before we get started. The mayor kind of outlined this, but the Imagine Cary Community Plan is Cary's comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan serves as the statement of goals, recommendations, and policies guiding Cary's built environment and how to serve the community. Therefore, the comprehensive plan may be amended from time to time to meet Cary's needs. This 2024 update to the Imagine Cary Community Plan is a comprehensive plan amendment, so that's why we're here tonight, to the existing plan, and thereby the adoption process will need to follow the standard comprehensive plan amendment process. So that process for completing this update is to hold the public hearing. Following the public hearing, council may recommend the plan to the Planning and Zoning Board for review, and the Planning and Zoning Board may recommend it back to council for final action and adoption. The Imagine Cary Community Plan was adopted in 2017, and the vision and policies set within the plan remain applicable today and are used in all aspects of Cary decision-making. Within the existing foundations chapter, the vision established by the community is for Cary to continue to be a model of a highly regarded and well-managed community. The interests of residents and businesses will be at the forefront of policies and public investment that foster sustained prosperity. The foundation chapter also looks at Cary's past and how our community will evolve, establishing that Cary will retain its existing form, being primarily suburban, with its attractive natural and built environment. We will also see strategic locations where new walkable and mixed-use developments will occur, and we will have to think differently with regards to financing and our revenue generation model. As an example, no longer being able to rely on new residents to be able to cover the cost of expanding services. Citizen participation in the plan was key to its creation. Since its adoption, the Imagine Cary Community Plan has become our reference in all that we do, from providing high-quality public service, capital planning, financial management, protecting nature and the environment, and managing future land use. The citizens and community leaders who worked so hard to create Imagine Cary knew that periodic updates would be needed, and this update of Imagine Cary builds upon the strong foundation established in 2017 while incorporating new insights and addressing contemporary challenges. The 2024 update has been in the works for several years, and it is a testament to the importance of Imagine Cary's vision for Cary's future. The plan will remain the same as it is today, with some additions. The update is focused on integrating plans and initiatives already approved by council and is not proposing to change the way we are doing things today. The plan includes 4 items: a preface, an update to the Live chapter, a new chapter titled Enrich, and updates to the Serve chapter. And I'll discuss each of these in more detail. The preface captures accomplishments and acknowledges implementation of the plan and growth of the community since 2017. The preface also documents external factors, such as the pandemic, while also sharing Cary's organizational culture, which is based on the highest standards of integrity, fairness, and transparency. The Live chapter is being updated with the inclusion of the 2021 Cary Housing Plan. The housing plan, created with strong stakeholder engagement, builds upon the policies of Imagine Cary, going beyond the focus of affordability with goals to ensure that all residents experience Cary's high quality of life. Stakeholders for the housing plan included community members, disability advocates, real estate brokers, developers of market rate and subsidized housing, the Western Wake Affordable Housing Action Group, and town staff.
The third item is the new chapter called Enrich. And the Enrich chapter consolidates all sustainability, climate action, and environmental policies, and reflects Cary's commitment to preserving and protecting our finite natural resources. Now, the environment is not new to Imagine Cary. This actually builds on existing environmental focus that was included in the original SERV chapter and incorporates the work and action of our environmental planning initiatives. Things like the Urban Forest Master Plan, approved by Council in May of this year, is integrated into this chapter. The Urban Forest Master Plan gathered feedback through professional and stakeholder workshops, a public open house, interviews with elected officials, community members, and industry professionals, the Tree Advisory Committee, input from the Environmental Advisory Board, and an interdisciplinary staff work group. Stakeholder engagement provided essential and foundational information for the formation of the plan. And there are also 2 additional plans under development, and they include the Climate Action Strategy and the Open Space Plan. These were also developed and identified as actions within the Enrich chapter. These planning processes have also gathered feedback across multiple engagement efforts to create strategies reflective of our community and priorities. We anticipate bringing these plans to Council early next year. If substantive amendments are necessary for Enrich based on these plans, staff will conduct a comprehensive plan amendment for the Enrich chapter. 10 policies are included in the Enrich chapter. 7 of these policies come from the original SERV chapter, and 3 of these policies are new based on public engagement and are highlighted here in orange. And so policy number 1, involve the community in environmental stewardship strategies for a sustainable future. Policy number 7, implement and promote green building principles. And policy number 10, support soil regeneration, use of native plants, and increase biodiversity for pollinators and wildlife. The 4th item is an update to the SERV chapter, which focuses on our operational models as we strive for excellence in serving the Cary community. Cary has continued to evolve since Imagine Cary's adoption. Specific updates to this chapter include the creation of 311 and leveraging our use of technology, the use of remote inspections in our evolving development process, the work of the Human Relations, Inclusion, and Diversity Board, whose mission is to improve the quality of life and sense of belonging for the Cary community. The chapter continues to highlight the community's needs for high-quality and well-managed infrastructure, public safety, and resilience planning. The SERV chapter includes 6 policies. 5 are existing policies, and 1 new policy is being added. And that policy is policy number 6, provide equitable, inclusive, and high-quality services to support citizens and development. Several other planning initiatives are currently underway. Other chapters will be amended as new plans and initiatives come forward, and as holistic reviews and updates of chapters are needed. Much like the incorporation of the Cary Housing Plan with this update, future plans will also be incorporated, and chapters will be updated upon approval. For example, the Engage and Move chapters will be updated following the approval of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan and the Cary Bike Plan. I mentioned earlier this update has been in the works for several years. We first engaged the boards and commissions in the spring of 2023, letting them know we were working on an update to Imagine Cary. At the direction by Council, engagement for the update was focused on the boards and commissions. This was intentional because the update incorporated Council-approved plans and initiatives that are the results of extensive stakeholder and citizen engagement. During this period, staff presented an overview of the draft to all 10 boards and commissions at their February meeting, and staff offered to return to their March meeting to receive feedback from the boards. I also returned to the Environmental Advisory Board in June of this year to review edits made to the Enrich chapter based on their input and the community feedback received. Throughout this process, we also welcomed additional community feedback. The initial draft was posted for a period for public review for over 60 days, from January to March of this year. We received feedback from the boards and commissions, as well as online public comments. And these comments focused on updating our demographics, supporting housing affordability, environmental impacts related to population growth, adding a policy on native species, and preserving existing habitats in the urban forest. In July, we presented an overview of the update at a regular council work session. And following the council work session, we heard from 4 citizens with regards to limiting development, reducing allowed building heights, developer-paid fees, engagement in future plans, and general information about Imagine Cary. And leading up to tonight's public hearing, notification of the draft update was provided in the Bud newsletter, in This Week in Cary. An update was sent to all the boards and commissions. It was posted on the project website, direct emails to citizens engaged in the process, and also Mayor Weinbrecht and Councilmember Bush filmed a Cary Matters segment to highlight the update, which was posted on social media and on the website. I would like to conclude with a reminder that this is a comprehensive plan amendment, and we are here tonight to hold the public hearing. Following the public hearing, council may recommend the plan to Planning and Zoning Board for review, and the Planning and Zoning Board may recommend it back to council for final action and adoption. This concludes my overview of the Imagine Cary 2024 update, and I will be available for questions following the public hearing. Thank you.
Cassie. Now's the time, now's the time for Act 34 Imagine Cary Community Plan 2024 update. And first, I'll call on our clerk to read any written comments, call on any speakers or phone-in speakers.
We have no written comments and 3 registered speakers. Our first registered speaker is Richard Wilson.
I'm Gina Wilson. Council members, I'd like to begin reading a statement that represents the views of the tree advocacy community in Cary. For the sake of time, I'm going to read the first half of the statement, and the next speaker will read the second half. In the Imagine Cary process in 2016, there was more public input about the importance of trees and wooded areas than about any other topic, and tree advocates were very happy with the principles, the stated policy intents, and the policies themselves in the final plan. We looked forward to their implementation, but we didn't read carefully enough. It wasn't until June of 2020 that we noticed that many of the environmental policies were not being included in rezoning or development project reviews. It was explained to us that those policies, being in the Chapter 8 SERV, were being applied only to town projects. After several rounds of emails, it became clear that there would be no change in that interpretation, despite it being pointed out that the policies make no sense and could never have a significant effect if interpreted in the narrow way. But because the issue was pressed by citizens, the policies did begin to be included in development reviews for rezoning cases in mid-2021. Initially, the volunteer conditions were almost inconsequential, but over time, the staff seems to have created circumstances in which developers are now offering more significant conditions. But in no way that we can see does this update significantly alter the dominant existing pattern of clear-cutting for new development, or the trend of tearing down old houses and trees for the sake of huge new houses. The policies create neither an official advocate for trees and undisturbed forest habitat, nor a mechanism for weighing the impact of their destruction. We must do more than educate. Education will not be sufficient to counteract short-sighted policies that permit the consumption of natural land, which is not a renewable resource. Land gets used up just like water, energy, and materials. It may be renewable with enormous effort, but it takes centuries. As you've done with water and hope to do with energy, we must decouple increasing population from consumption. Policies should encourage less consumption. Density promotion has to be paired with active preservation, that is, less consumption of land, in order to be effective. If not, density just leads to more profit and a bigger tax base, with the eventual development of all land just with a short delay. Community action needs a specific strategic vision of the urban forest to inspire and organize efforts. Only the town can marshal the resources that provide such a vision, or that is, to provide such a vision. We don't see such a vision anywhere in the policies in this update or in the Urban Forest Master Plan. The Draft and Rich section does a good job of articulating environmental challenges, but it falls short in describing the full range of opportunities that could and should be available to us regarding our urban forest. To appreciate that shortfall, it's important to not just read it as an isolated document, but rather to do two comparisons. First, to the other sections of the community plan, and second, to the tree policy sections of the 2017 version. The next speaker will conclude the second part of this statement. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Richard Wilson.
I'll continue that comparison. The live, work, shop, shape, and move sections all convey specific, detailed, almost tangible visions of what's planned and why. The goals are clearly stated and examples abound. By contrast, the treatment of trees in the Enrich Challenges and Opportunities section and Policy 4 is generic and qualitative, lacking the kind of goals, data, and planning of the other sections. Policy 8 makes it clear that residents, businesses, and institutions will have to each do their part, but says little about the town's expectations and what the town will do to guide and support those actions. It implies that the Urban Forest Master Plan offers more detail on what the plan will do itself, but unfortunately, that plan doesn't go very far towards bringing Enrich into line with the specificity of the other chapters. Now, a comparison to the 2017 version. This update offers no new town commitments, but does have some concerning changes from the 2017 version. To help keep track of which version I'm talking about, I'll be over here when I'm talking about 2017 and over here when I'm talking about the current one. Policy 9 of the 2017 version had these important statements. Quote, "One objective of this policy is to strive to protect portions of existing canopy as new development occurs, particularly hardwood canopy. Another objective is to plan and design new developments with ample and strategically located deciduous tree plantings, such that new development will have ample tree canopy at maturity," end quote. Those sentences are absent in this update. In contrast, Live Policy 3 in the March draft of this update stated, quote, "The town will also need to maintain the environmental quality of new development while balancing the pressures on development costs," end quote. That sentence is not in the current version, but I suspect that it was removed because it revealed an inclination to avoid conflict and a tendency to compromise environmental priorities internally, even before external negotiation or the time for council decision-making. Policy 9 in 2017 said, quote, "The intent of this policy is to support retaining and or adding to our community's tree canopy, particularly within developed areas," end quote. That too is absent in the update, and the shape chapter has a map showing almost the entire Maynard Loop being designated as supporting residential area, with several photo examples of very dense housing and with the only tree space being narrow sidewalk planting strips. Taken together, these changes could be interpreted as paving the way for even less town resistance to tree and habitat loss in both new and infill development. Now, moving from this comparison back to just general comments, page 264 of the original plan states, quote, "One of the primary uses of the town's comprehensive plan is for evaluating development proposals. The town's evaluation of rezoning applications begins with the guidance provided in this comprehensive plan, end quote. With only limited and vague references to tree preservation in this update, the staff analyzing development proposals has little to work with in trying to compare the merits of a development proposal to the harms done to our natural infrastructure. Please give the development review teams, the urban forest manager, and the zoning compliance officers more to work with. Specifically, some rational, concrete goals and clear, forceful policies that have a chance of having an impact commensurate with both the magnitude of our deforestation problem and the strength of the public desire for effective intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Our last registered speaker is Richard Carroll.
Can you move to your left, please?
What?
Move to your left.
Okay.
The guys upstairs will be happy.
Okay. I'll be happy to. Mr. the Mayor, esteemed council, the title of the environmental chapter in the Imagine Cary Community Plan is enrich. With respect to what environmental parameter are we becoming rich? As I see it, we are ecologically enriched only as we imagine Cary, but not in reality. The Imagine Cary Community Plan, as we are told, is a blueprint for density and development, while the ecological section is part of the enriched imagination. I've used the words aspirational statement to indicate wishful words that have no concrete, specific, or time-bound actions. The revision uses the same words from SERV in the 2017 plan and unsuccessfully implemented in the 7 years leading to this revision. New topics such as climate change, not mentioned in the first version of Imagine Cary, are welcome, as are rainfall drought, a more expanded tree and urban canopy, GSI, and native plants, soil and wildlife, and pollinators. The policy directions could advance these issues, but have been unsuccessful in the past. How will they carry us to the future? Since the 2017 adoption of Imagine Cary, carbon parts per million have risen greatly. Human population and cars are soon doubling in Cary. Human health is falling. Trees are falling to make way for development. Runoff from impermeable surfaces has increased. Trees and medians are mostly non-native species, improperly planted, volcano mulch, dying prematurely, and not even to provide shade in the heat islands and parking lots and sidewalks. And never mitigate flooding, as they are perched on berms while water runs off below them. Greenways in the lower bottomlands become linear corridors of invasive plants that wash down from surrounding neighborhoods. What will change? We need drastic, aggressive action, not just new statements and old words. It's hard to consider Cary a leader in these fields. This document is full of aspirational statements, but in reality, Cary has clear-cut 90 acres for Fenton 1, and more will go as it expands, hosting the headwaters of Walnut Creek. 921 South Maynard, public land is an 8 forested acres along the headwaters of Walnut Creek, also slated for clear-cutting. These aspirational statements of a desired future state are not likely achievable based on our population growth and development. In fact, the challenges and opportunities sections discusses the increasing population, which is more like an exploding population. Cary's population is 187,000 and will hit the 193 people by the end of 2024. 14 years ahead of the time on which the Cary Community Plan assumptions are made. If the rate of growth continues, the population will be over 291,000 by 2040, which is the supposed end of this plan. In Cary, we have both sprawl and density, and we have already compromised our ability to meet the needs of those in the future. How will we balance the effects of growing population with efforts to manage, conserve, and innovate on behalf of environmental quality? The Trees and Urban Canopy section contains many true statements about the values of trees, but why are so many trees being felled in Cary? And why are they not planted properly as outlined in the Cary Appearance Manual? As most of the urban forests are to be on private land, what incentives are there for landowners to preserve and plant trees when the incentive in Cary is to deforest and build? In the native plant section, again, all good statements concerning the importance of native species. Again, aspirational, as much of the canopy recently examined through satellite images likely included vast areas of invasive species that we see all around Cary.
Carol, I'm sorry, but your time has expired.
Really?
If you have additional comments, if you leave them with the clerk, she'll
I have.
we get a copy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
No additional registered speakers.
If you're in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. And I want to thank the citizens for speaking at this public hearing tonight. Very thoughtful information. This will go to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review. Please feel free to send additional information to Mr. Schumacher Georgopoulos.
Miss.
Ms. Did I say Ms.?
Bless your heart.
You said Mr.
Cassie, I'm sorry. Send to Ms. Schumacher Georgopoulos or one of the council members, and we'll be glad to receive it. We really appreciate the information that you passed along, and I'll be interested to hear what the Planning and Zoning Board has to say about the information you provided. But that's the next stop, and we'll be seeing it in a few months?
Yes.
Is that my guess? Okay, thank you. We now move to discussion items, and our first discussion item, and only discussion item, is 23 REZ05 South Hills District rezoning. And Assistant Town Manager Scott Berry will introduce the item, followed by Assistant Planning Director Katie Dry, who will give a report on the Planning Board's recommendation, and council may take action. Mr. Berry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to be here tonight with Katie Dry to help present the rezoning case for South Hills. It's not often that a case that has received a unanimous vote of approval by the Planning and Zoning Board and also has the support of staff ends up on the discussion agenda. But like Fenton and a few others, this case is special and worthy of a full presentation. The site current building includes a smaller interior mall and several out parcels. The location is truly a gateway into Cary, near the intersections of two highways, I-40 and US 1. The gateway, however, is by all accounts one that can be improved upon. The assemblage of land for this rezoning includes all of South Hills Mall, plus Grace Christian School, as well as properties to the west of Buck Jones Road. South Hills was constructed in the 60s. The mall opened in 72 and expanded in the 80s. Since that time, the site has remained largely the same. With over 430,000 square feet of buildings, 1,800 parking spaces, about 49% of this property is being used for surface parking, creating ample opportunities for improvement. And like many of Cary's most significant developments, the vision for this site has evolved with a collaboration with staff and the applicant. This project started as an adaptive reuse site. They were going to basically take the buildings that were there and put cool new uses in them. And through conversations, that's changed. This evolution took place over a number of years, starting in 2021 with the developer purchasing the property. A rezoning and neighborhood meeting occurred in 2023. Most of us toured the site, I think we all toured the site, beginning this year, and we held a public hearing in April. The case was heard by the Planning and Zoning Board in September, and we're here tonight for decision. Staff and the developer have also been in discussion regarding a development agreement, which will return to the council for a decision at a future date. The current zoning for the entire South Hills Center is general commercial without any conditions, which is pretty rare for Cary. Allowable uses under the current zoning could include kennels, gas stations, funeral homes, and car washes. This rezoning tailors the allowable uses to include residential, office, commercial, and limited opportunities for industrial use. Overall, the project will allow for redevelopment and density in a destination center, reinvesting in a tired mall. It'll create a resilient block structure, a block structure where you put down infrastructure once and then you can change the use over and over again because you've created walkable blocks. It establishes a holistic vision. It creates a sense of place for this district. And it allows for a civic use, should the center go there, but is also flexible enough that it could be a viable project on its own. So imagine Cary, as we were just talking about, it sets the vision for our future. This rezoning request takes Imagine Cary's vision, applies district standards as rezoning conditions to create a framework for turning the vision into reality. And with that, I'll turn it over to Katie to talk about the proposal.
Thank you, Scott, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to be back before you tonight sharing the updated South Hills rezoning request. This is a rezoning for a MXD district, which is called Mixed Use District. It includes a preliminary development plan. The key feature for this project is the street grid network, which will create a framework for development to occur. The new street grid will create up to 27 development blocks. The new development will be parked primarily in parking decks. In fact, 75% of the parking will be required to be within structured parking decks. Community gathering areas will be distributed throughout the site with a minimum commitment of 60,000 square feet, which is about 1.5 acres. Since you originally saw this request for a public hearing in April of this year, the key concepts have not changed with this project. Changes have focused primarily on strengthening the existing commitments and clarifying certain concepts. So the key changes include, they've added phasing requirements, which will link development requirements to sub-districts. EV charging is now changed to a ratio of per spaces instead of per deck. They've added additional details for transit hub within the site. They've updated stormwater requirements to be more site-specific. They've adjusted multifamily parking rates and shared parking requirements. Clarified reuse, redevelopment, and pop-up structures will be allowed within certain areas. They've clarified sign modifications will only apply to certain areas within the interior of the site. And they've increased the workforce housing commitment from 10 to 30 years for the length of time. And I'll talk through the project in its entirety next. So just to review the key concepts of the rezoning, I will walk through each of the elements, and then I'll summarize the request with the Imagine Cary Community Plan with the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation. So again, the South Hills development proposes a street grid, which will be built with customized cross-sections to include accommodations for bicyclists, pedestrians, and on-street parking. Both transit stops and a transit hub will be located within the site. Notably, this site represents Cary's first project that will include a transportation demand management program. One of the key features of the South Hills District will be a pedestrian way traveling north and south through the site, shown in green. And unlike other developments generally seen in Cary, this site is not governing the location of uses by pod or by zone. Instead, it'll tie active ground floor uses such as restaurants and retail uses to align with this pedestrian way. A land use ratio will be implemented, which will require a ratio of 25,000 square feet of non-residential for every 100 multifamily residential uses. And this will be required to be maintained on site to balance the mixing of uses. A workforce housing commitment designates the 5% of the units for renters with incomes not exceeding 80% of the area median income for a period of 30 years. For transportation improvements, a transportation improvements table is included in the preliminary development plan. This table links transportation improvements to subdistricts for South Hills. The first two subdistricts are on the east side of Buck Jones Road, and the third is to the west. A traffic analysis for each subdistrict will be completed to assess the improvements needed and associated within that subdistrict, as listed on the improvements table. To govern the framework, the development team has proposed a set of district development standards, which propose site-specific standards for architecture, public art, signage, development plans, active uses, streetscapes, community gathering areas, and reuse and redevelopment. Building heights will be established within 3 height zones. Building height zone 1, which is the western portion of the site and adjacent to existing residential uses, will allow for buildings between 2 to 6 floors. Height zone 2, which frames Buck Jones Road, will allow for heights between 3 to 15 floors. And height zone 3, adjacent to the highway, will allow for heights ranging between 3 to 23 floors. The district development standards will regulate building appearance, replacing the Community Appearance Manual for the South Hills District. Pictures shown here are examples from the District Development Standards book that give examples of building materials, design, and architecture. Signage regulation will follow 2 tiers. Sign Zone 1, which is shown in pink here, is adjacent to US1, Buck Jones Road, and Nottingham. Areas or signs within Sign Zone 1 will follow the regulations of Cary's LDO. No sign modifications are proposed for this area. Signs within Sign Zone 2, which is the area in white, more internal to the site, will allow for flexibility with signage. And within this area, there will be limited amounts of movie screens, roof signs, and neon signs. Examples of signs within this area could include pedestrian entry monuments. These signs will be located at entry points along the greenway, pedestrian way, and gathering areas. There will also be allowances for painted signs, digital signs within parking decks, illuminated cabinet signs, and digital signs within Sign Zone 2. Sign Zone 2 will also allow for 3 permanent digital movie screens when paired with community gathering areas and 2 roof signs. Reuse and redevelopment will allow for reuse of existing buildings within subdistricts 2 and 3. And these will be allowed to remain as long as certain criteria are met, such as no increase to the overall square footage. It also will permit pop-up structures. Pop-up structures will be limited to no more than 10 within Subdistrict 2 and 10 within Subdistrict 3. And there will be a 10-year limitation for reuse activity within Subdistrict 2. While the site was developed before today's stormwater requirements and would likely not be required to add traditional stormwater devices that are typically found in greenfield development, the applicant has proposed to include custom requirements which include a post-construction stormwater management plan with peak flow reduction at a specific location on Walnut Creek that was determined not to exacerbate downstream flooding conditions, and a commitment that each subdistrict within the plan will achieve targeted nitrogen reductions through the use of green stormwater infrastructure. Based on staff's review of the Imagine Cary Community Plan, we found that policies applicable to the case were within the live, work, shop, shape, engage, move, and serve chapters. Staff's analysis also looked at this proposal with the destination center and found the proposed mix of uses to be consistent. Overall, the proposed development will allow for a vertically integrated mixed-use project arranged in small and connected block network with ample pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. The proposed mix of uses and densities are generally consistent with the destination center. We find that the South Hills rezoning will redevelop an aging shopping center within one of Cary's destination centers. And the site's prominence near the highway and the opportunity for redevelopment make it a key opportunity for Cary, thus addressing policies from the work and shop chapter. When looking at land use, we note that the active ground floor uses and the balance ratio proposed with the land use ratio will ensure a pedestrian-oriented mixed-use site, addressing policies from the live, work, shop, and shape chapters. A comprehensive approach to transportation featuring structured parking, pedestrian, and bike infrastructure, as well as transit integration and transportation demand management will all further goals found within the MOVE chapter. And when it comes to environmental considerations, the stormwater management proposal, EV charging, and community gathering areas aim to create sustainable, accessible, and vibrant urban areas, addressing policies found within the SERV chapter. The Planning and Zoning Board heard the case on September 23rd of 2024 and unanimously found the plan to be consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan by a vote of 6-0. Overall, staff finds the proposal to be consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan because we find that it supports policies found in the live, work, shop, shape, engage, move, and serve chapters. We note that the proposed density is in an area where Cary's highest densities are encouraged, and we find that the street grid and the multimodal street cross sections are furthering policies from the MOVE chapter. We also note that it supports the redevelopment of an aging shopping center within a destination center. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dry. Before I turn it over to my colleagues, I guess I'll ask my questions. I only have a couple. There's a lot of density proposed in this site. Was there a traffic impact analysis, and what did that show?
Yeah, so there was a traffic impact analysis, and with the traffic impact analysis, it did produce a list of recommended transportation improvements. The applicants have committed to completing and addressing all of the recommended transportation improvements. As I noted in the presentation, they have identified 3 sub-districts for the development, so a supplemental transportation analysis will be performed with each sub-district to tie the transportation improvements that are triggered for that particular sub-district.
And then the curiosity makes me ask the next question, which you probably don't have the answer to, but I'm hoping for a ballpark. When we're talking about developer agreement, are we talking weeks, months, a year?
I said future date. I thought that was kind of like a smart way to say it.
I mean,
Months?
Months, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And we'll see that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, also.
See it, vote, all the good stuff.
That's all I had.
I'll just kind of underscore your concern about traffic in the area or congestion in the area. It looks like the developer's doing everything that it can do to improve, the congestion impact, and it looks like they're doing everything on site. That's kind of like what we would hope for on site. But I think it's going to be incumbent upon the town to make sure that we're on top of this and that we're investing in our transportation network all around it so that we don't end up in a situation where people don't want to come here because it's so mired in congestion. So it's just something I want us to make sure we keep an eye on.
I have another transportation question. What is a transportation demand management system?
Yeah, so this will be the first project in Cary that will have a transportation demand management program. It is a type of program that's employed generally when you have large mixed-use projects. And I do have a definition from the Federal Highway Administration. It defines transportation demand management as a set of strategies that are aimed to provide travelers with a range of effective choices for improved travel reliability, reduce congestion, and enhance overall efficiency of the transportation system. These choices include selecting different modes of transport like ride-sharing, public transit, or biking. It can also include altering travel times, routes, and even work locations to manage and reduce the demand on transportation networks. So to sum it up, it would be making sure to provide various modes of transportation options, so like biking, pedestrian, ride sharing, vehicular management, but then also making sure that there is staggering of times for the employment within the site, or if there's like a big event, making sure that employers are working with an event sponsor to look at management of traffic.
Thank you.
I have a question. Back in September, when this project was first discussed, was it September? Did you mention September?
September, it went to the Planning and Zoning Board, and
Okay.
it was before you in April this year for a public.
Oh, yes, it was in April. Thank you for correcting me. So there was a comment made by Councilwoman Bush at that time about the walkability and the bike access and whatnot. And the concern was really from Buck Jones Road. Was that addressed? Was that one of the commitments?
Yeah, so crosswalks and pedestrian and bicycle travel across Buck Jones Road will certainly be looked at. And with a project of this size, we will have to look at the phasing in which the project comes in. And initially, pedestrian and bicycle travel will be paired with where traffic signals are located. And as additional traffic signals come in along Buck Jones Road, there will be additional opportunities to add in a signalized pedestrian and bicycle crossing. So that will certainly be part of the development.
So is it a commitment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I have a couple of questions. Is there any idea of where the structured parking will be?
They've not designated locations for the structured parking.
Okay, and, well, first off, I would say this whole idea of phasing with commercial and multifamily is really interesting. I don't think have we ever had anything like that before, where you've got a match of non-residential to residential?
Not that I'm aware of.
This will be the first one that I'm aware of that requires in perpetuity that balancing of a mix of uses. We have had some that have linked development plan for non-residential to residential, but this is going to require that in perpetuity balance.
So how does that work on the ground? So they put in, I'm just trying to figure this out. They open up 25,000 square feet of non-residential. They can't add anything more non-residential until they build the 100 units?
Yeah, it would potentially limit their ability to submit additional development plans or receive permits for certain types of uses if the ratio is not met.
So that means no CO, let's say, they wouldn't get a CO until the COs for the 100 units are open and available.
Potentially, or development plan.
We would look at it at the development plan level. So
Oh,
when they
sorry.
came in, we would make sure that that development plan met that ratio, right? And so we approve that. Well, then the next one that comes in, it's going to adjust the ratio, so it still needs to meet it. Then the
Right.
next one comes in. So you're kind of constantly asking them to prove the ratio out on each submittal.
Okay, so but it's really the fact that those units are available, not that they're planned. That's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand.
Right.
So
right.
they're available, because we had that problem previously with phases. So you can't build this one until the other, well, it's planned, I just can't get my funding for that, I'm just going to keep building.
Right.
Market for this at this time.
Exactly, yeah, okay. So I happen to like that. And thank you for caring so much about pedestrian access, Councilmember Ponsall. That's great, because that was going to be my other question. Mr. I and I spoke today about that. The only thing I'm concerned about is Buck Jones is difficult today to figure out. I mean, just yesterday I came up Buck Jones, forgot that I couldn't make a right on Walnut.
Oh, bless your heart.
And then possibly, maybe, instead of doing the illegal U-turn, might have gone into REI. So I imagine that it's going to be somewhat confusing for a while. It'd be great to have something new that's a destination where we have the opportunity to fix and address that and improve it. So that's a really good thing as well. My only other comment is, I get that compromise is in between bad and great. And I'm very happy that this developer has said that they'll do 5% workforce housing at 80% for 30 years now instead of the 10. I always feel like there's something a little bit more we can do, but the opportunity in front of us is to take an area that's really, turning into a blighted area and make it something that can really come out of the ground and reinvigorate that whole area. But the most important question is, what about Baker's Dozen? Have they made a commitment to donuts? Do we know?
Not in the rezoning case.
Darn it. Okay, well,
Oh,
that's really,
got a
that will
lawyer.
hinge.
And that's Susan's favorite donuts, right?
Yeah, apple,
Yep, Susan.
yeah, fritters
There you go.
is really it. But thank you, yeah, I thank you for answering the question and for spending time with me before.
Other questions?
I have a question and then an observation I want to make. I saw in your presentation, it was noted that 49% of this property is surface parking. And then, of course, 75% of the parking is being committed as being structured parking. I'm curious as to whether we know, is this going to reduce the amount of paved surfaces or perhaps reduce the amount of impervious surface over the entirety of the parcels?
So with this site, they are proposing to develop it within sub-districts, and there are some criteria that would guarantee some permeable area, so less paved area. They have not committed to like an overall, like a number that we could look to overall, but I can tell you that within each sub-district, they have a certain commitment to community gathering area, and a certain percentage of that has to be permeable area, so area that's not paved or hardscaped. So there is some commitment to have green area built in, where there's just not a lot of that currently.
Wonderful. I'm glad I asked. And I've had a couple of communications with a group of citizens that desperately want to see even one of the existing live oaks preserved. So I'm just going to say that would be, I understand how technically challenging that is, but perhaps if it lines up where there's a green space that could align with one of those live oaks, that would be, or I'm not sure what kind of oaks they are. They're some kind of oak. It would be great to see just that homage to the past preserved. I do want to acknowledge, I understand just how challenging that is. But the thing I want to make sure that I say, and I know when I got really enthusiastic about this project, when I had an opportunity to go and tour the site and talk to the developers and talk to them about their plans and kind of what they expect from the site. And I think this is a great example of where green stormwater infrastructure is going to, for this being mixed use in the way that it is, this is going to make that environment feel so much more lush. It's really something that I get really excited when I see it voluntarily included in the plan. I loved it when Duke said, they came and said, here's the green stormwater we want to include, because the more I know about it, the more I notice it. And when I go someplace and they've got really well thought out green stormwater infrastructure, it makes you feel like you're someplace lush. And it serves this really great purpose. I can tell you as a downtown resident, the lack of standing water across the street in my regularly flooded neighbor's yard since the downtown park stormwater infrastructure has come online, it's remarkable. My daughter and I used to play in it, and it was knee-deep. And now I can't even get wet up to the ankles on a really bad rainstorm. So on one hand, she's grown, so it's not as disappointing. It was a lot of fun. But this, I just want to commend the applicant. I got really excited when they started talking about it. I think it'll be done really well. And I'd love to see both, and to Dr. Carroll that was speaking earlier, we've had a great deal of discussions on this. When you have that green stormwater infrastructure, the trees grow better. There's a lot more, just everything is a little bit well done. So I want to commend the applicant on those. Those were in the intentions, I believe, from the get-go. I don't think I had to say, please do this thing. As I recall, the conversation was, here's this great thing we want to do. And I just wanted to share my enthusiasm for that, because I think it's going to make the environment just that, while it will be urban and it will be denser, it will be felt and it will be noticeable, and it will contribute in a really positive way to reducing the heat island effect that can be created from the kind of height that's being proposed in some areas of this project. And that's my soapbox, I'm stepping
Well, you
off.
brought up a great point that I think we all neglect to consider, which is that is all concrete in buildings today, right? When people are saying, well, you don't pay enough attention to the trees, there are a couple of beautiful champion trees, but essentially it is all concrete in building. And so this is about taking something that exists and making it
So much better.
much better.
So much better.
It would be interesting at the end to find out that, how many trees we went from on the site to how many trees end up being planted.
I believe there's not very many now. I know
No.
the exact trees. I actually went out and looked, when I was getting the email, I was like, please, and it's for a lot of people, it's like going to your high school and it's kind of gone. And I think it gives people sort of, the sad feeling. But I think going there where it's now, talk about lots of parking. Boy, when I went to my tailor over in South Hills, I had the pick of the litter, right? You could park sideways in parking spots if you wanted. But to go from that kind of sea of, not well-maintained parking lot area to something that feels, like a really great cross between urban and planted, I think it'll be meaningfully different.
I hope someone takes a nice drone shot over it as the way it is now, and then in 5 years or whatever it is, shows us the various ways that it looks over time.
So before I turn it over to Mr. Smith, I want to explain to those who are watching and may be a little confused. We're talking about a type of use, and since it's so big, we throw in a little more, like the pods and how it's laid out, but we're still talking about the type of use. And when we talk about the details, a lot of that will come out in the developer agreement that they were talking about a little bit earlier. Just to give you an idea, Fenton had 101 conditions, I think it was, in that agreement. So I assume this is going to be something like that. It'll be significant. And that'll lay out a lot of the information that a lot of people are seeking. But right now, we're talking and voting on the type of use. Is what they're proposing for a type of use something that's acceptable? So, Mr. Smith, this is your district. Love to hear what you have to say.
I'm just going to agree with everybody. I mean, I'm going to miss roses, but other than that. Look, I wish we had this wisdom 30 years ago when we had crossroads across, and I hope that as we continue with this and we're looking at the bigger picture in that area, we look at, from a town perspective, just how we can integrate all that traffic and all that stuff there, because across the road there, across 40 is always a challenge at the holiday season. But when I think of the controls and the environmental concerns and the issues that we had to address 30 years ago, 35 years ago, and you look at where we are today and what we're about to get here, sometimes it's like watching your kids grow up. You forget about it because it seems so natural. But I sure hope that the optimism we have here and the thought that was put into this, I hope we can look back at some of those other areas nearby, and we can figure out a way to just integrate that, especially from the traffic and from an environmental perspective. But when we were improving 40, or actually 1 in 64, and we saw what the state did not to deal with some of the environmental concerns that we're now living with down the road in Waverly and other places, I think we're ahead of the game here. I would be repeating myself on a lot of things, but I do want to say thank you for listening. I think this is one of the things that we hope for in the future as we look at these clustered areas. There's an area in front of Regency that could be a future same way. We just hope that we, through the success of, hopefully the success of this, that we will be seeing that type of innovation and investment come to all those other areas. So again, thank you for working with us. Thank you to the staff for holding, making sure our concerns were, as a council, were addressed, but also that we are not just looking at the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law as we forward to all of this. With that, unless others have any more comments, I would make a motion to approve, and I would move that we adopt the following documents attached to the online agenda: the Statement of Consistency for 23 REZ05 and the rezoning ordinance for 23 REZ05. And I make that in a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, council.
More to come. Thank you so much. That concludes the regular agenda. There is no other business this evening. This meeting is adjourned.